Hi, welcome to episode 436 of The Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy Kira on Twitter and Instagram. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, and that's where this episode and every episode show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea where I sell my hand-spun yarns and knitting patterns. Hi, so today you're actually going to get a twofer because I just realized just now that I never actually made the episode 435 public. So I uploaded it last week. I meant to do the show notes and then I completely forgot all about it. And when I just went to double check the episode number so I said it right, I realized that I never uploaded 435. So this is in fact 436. If you got this one first, you might want to go back and watch 435. And yes, there are two today. Technically, that one was filmed last week, and this one was filmed this week. So, hi. It is Monday, August 14th, and I know it seems like we skipped Monday, August 7th, but we did not. I talked about a few things in that one. I didn't have a ton of progress to show you, but I do have more progress this week to show you. So, hopefully that will suffice. I do apologize. That was kind of flighty of me. I hope I won't do that again. So I'll be uploading this one right away, and hopefully you'll get both of them in the next hour or so. So I hope that you are doing well. Let's see, since I talked to you, my husband and I celebrated our 15th wedding anniversary as of August 9th. So that was kind of fun. We went out to dinner this weekend and just kind of enjoying each other and our company, and promised for at least 15 more. I actually told him I want a golden anniversary, so that means we have 35 more years. So I told him to prep for that, but that's what we're planning for. So yeah, so that's kind of the big thing that happened. Mostly we just hung out over the weekend. It's been beastly hot here again, in the hundreds. We've had thunderstorms and all kinds of stuff, and I am so ready for fall. I will tell you, I have not quite had my fall knitting bug. That usually happens like right at the end of August, beginning of September, where all of a sudden I want to cast on all the sweaters and all the fall things, and I'm not quite there yet, which is also probably because it's still 100 degrees. But I am really, really, really looking forward to fall. I'm kind of ready to be done with the heat and the humidity, and I know lots of folks are back to school this week, so even though technically I guess summer isn't over till let me think about it, the autumn equinox, which is usually September 21st, 22nd, that time range. So I guess technically we've still got a little more than a month, but I'm ready for back to school and spooky and all kinds of fall things and fall temperatures. So today I am working on a cup of coffee. This is my hazelnut vanilla decaf in my roastery mug, and I have been working on this all afternoon. I've been doing that thing where I made one, and then I drank some, and then it got cold, so I put it back in the microwave, and then it got cold again, so I put it back in the microwave, and I'm still drinking it. I know, it's really gross. But so that's what I'm drinking today. I promise next time I will come with tea. So let's get into the knits because I have stuff to show you this week. So I have one finish, and I mean just finished. I finished it on my lunch hour today. And that is the shawl that I was knitting for Zen Yarn Garden. And it's really funny because I have really, really poor I don't want to say spatial recognition. I have a really hard time seeing how things fit together until I actually get there. And like, you would have thought that the baby surprise jacket was actually really hard for me. It wasn't, because I kind of figured out how to fold it. But I really kind of had no idea what this shawl would look like. So just as a reminder, I am knitting this shawl as a sample for Zen Yarn Garden. The pattern and the yarn are forthcoming. And the yarn that I was using was a double-stranded cake. Basically, the yarn was knit into a double-stranded sock blank, or possibly larger. I have to weigh it. I think it's probably a sock blank. I think it was probably about 400 yards. But I have to weigh it because the skein that I got didn't come with a label. and it looked a little bigger than some of the other skeins. So I do need to weigh this. But the deal is that it was dyed as a double-stranded sock length. So theoretically, when you pulled the strands apart, you had 2 yarns that were dyed similarly. I first showed you this a couple projects ago in the 2 at a time toe-up socks that I did in the gradient, and those worked out really, really well. And since then, I've had a little trouble with the yarns not being 100% quite identical. They don't quite knit up exactly the same, and I think that's probably because what Zen Yarn Garden does is they paint the sock blanks. And because of the way they paint things, because like in a gradient you have chunks of color that are fairly similar, like in a variegated, if you even paint just a little bit and like one strand gets some and the other strand doesn't, then it's possibly a slightly different look. So the deal is that it looks like it belongs together because both of them were obviously dyed at the exact same time in the exact same skein, but the strands are not like 100% identical. So basically what I was tasked to do, and this is the first time we were kind of knitting this pattern up, which is why in my mind I just had trouble picturing where it was going to be. So I knit basically 2 triangles, one with each strand, and I knit them at the same time on the same needle. I basically just had 1 strand for each of them going, and I knit them until I ran out of yarn, at which point I turned the sides of the triangle together, the sides that were still on the needles, and at that point it was a little over 100 stitches, and I turned the sides together, and then I did kind of a fun join, which designer Suzanne Nielsen sort of pioneered in her Zen Zip tee, and the zip refers to the join in the middle. In her sense, in that project, which I have also knit, the tee is kind of knit, it starts in the middle of the back from a provisionary cast on, and then you work around both sides of the front of the sweater, and then right here, right up the front of the sweater, you kind of zip it up using this little technique. And so that's what we did with the shawl. And so I kind of got lost on which side was going to be the top and which side were going to be the sides, but it's a total triangle. So basically I thought that the sections with the yarn over was going to be the top, but it's not, because it's the sections that are increasing. So when I finished, basically what I have is this. So this is a shawl that it's wider than it is deep, but it is fairly deep. And what I have is basically a triangular shawl. This needs a really good blocking. I only just finished this afternoon. Obviously here we got some pooling in this skein that we didn't on the other side, so it's not identical, but the skeins were dyed at exactly the same time and are exactly the same colors. So I guess we got some pooling in different spots on this one. So yeah, so it's a triangular shawl. The top is just a 2-stitch garter stitch border. I think that will lay flat once I go ahead and block it. And then the 2 sides were joined in this really cool kind of Zen zip texture that is at the center of the shawl. That's where I joined them. And then down on the underside, you've got your increasing bits here, and it comes down to a point at the bottom, and the point will be more pronounced once I block it. So this is kind of where it starts and where your zip starts, right here down at the point. So all my ends are woven in, but I haven't clipped them yet. I have 4 ends, 1 at each of the sides of the shawl where I started, because I started each of these and worked upward from the triangle, and then worked up to the center of the shawl, and then I joined the 2 centers together. So it turned into kind of a neat shawl. I mean, there was nothing super complicated about it. Obviously, I'm knitting stockinette, and I was just working on 2 needles back and forth, much the way you would if you were doing sleeves or if you were doing 2 socks, particularly for the sock heels where you're working sections back and forth. And so it was really, really a simple knit, but I think it's kind of an interesting technique, just something fun and a little bit different. And of course you get sort of the sideways knit here, versus normally what you would do is you would start at the center and then you would kind of build the triangles working on your way down. So I thought this was just kind of a fun, interesting knit. So I'm going to wash that and block it tonight, and I'll take some photos. They'll probably be on Instagram. And I said this was 400 yards. It might be a little bit more. Let me, if you can handle a little bit of beeping, I hate to do this because it is kind of a loud beep, but let me pop it on the scale over here, and I will tell you what it is. It is about 150 grams, so it's probably, let me think about that, at 400, it's probably about 600 yards. So right around 600 yards. So that was a slightly oversized cake, and it gave me a nice shawl, and I think especially once it blocks, it'll relax some, and I think it'll be really, really nice. I think it's roughly my wingspan, even though, and I'm 5'2", so 5'2", 5'3", and it will probably grow a bit, and then I will also take some measurements on gauge and kind of length at the center spine. The pattern and yarn will be forthcoming from Zen Yarn Garden, so if you are interested in giving it a try, that's kind of a fun pattern. So the second thing that I have been working on is I've been working on Miles' sweater, and you sort of saw that last week. You didn't really see it last week. You probably saw it right before you watched this one, and you're not seeing double. What I have done is I have actually finished the second sleeve. So I have 2 sleeves now for Miles' sweater. As a reminder, what I am knitting the Hearthstone pattern by Isolde Teague, and this is Malabrigo Rios in the Cereza colorway, and Cereza means cherry in Spanish. So it is just a dark kind of kettle dyed red, so it's just it's got lighter sections and darker sections, but it's all tonal, and I am through both sleeves. So the pattern is a if you haven't seen it, the pattern is a cabled sweater, and it is worked from the bottom up, and so you knit the sleeves first, which is great because the sleeves could be my swatches, and then you knit the body from the bottom up, and then you join, and as you're doing raglan shaping and building the yoke, you are adding cables along the raglan lines and then around the collar. So the fun part really comes at the end. Not that these were onerous to knit, but of course these are not the exciting part. And what I need to do is I need to start on the body, and now that that shawl is done for Zen Yarn Garden, I don't actually have any more yarn or samples to start right away. So I am going to use this week to kind of dig in deep and hopefully get a good chunk of the body done. I don't know if I can get it up to where I can join the sleeves next week, but if I could, wouldn't that be great? So it's basically just going to be a plain body. It's going to be more like this with, you know, 2x2 ribbing at the hem and then the body. And so I'm just going to work on that and knit and get myself to the fun part, which is where the cables will be. So that's in the plan for this week. Nothing too strenuous, but something that I do definitely want to put some time in. And this had previously sort of been my next to the computer project, which means I do it when I'm in meetings or when I'm at knit night, and I'm going to take this out to the couch and make this kind of a main evening project that I work on in the evenings, so I should get more progress next week, but I'm really pleased to have both sleeves done and be making progress on this. It isn't actually due until mid-October, because that is when my old birthday is, but I do want to get it done as soon as I can, just so I like to get ahead on things. Plus, I'm already starting to think about holiday knitting. I know it's not even the end of August yet, but everybody wants socks. The kids asked for more socks. My mom asked for more socks. That's actually a really funny story. So, I'll make stuff for my parents whenever, but my parents do live in California, so they don't need a lot of stuff, and I have knit them stuff over the years so that they could travel to Chicago, where my sister lives and where their grandkids live, in the winter. And so I have made them each a number of socks, and I've made them hats and mittens and whatever. And so when I was there a few weeks ago, I wanted to take my niece and nephew to the yarn store and let them pick out some sock yarn so that I could make them some socks for the fall, because they had asked for them. And as it turned out, the yarn store did not have a great selection of sock yarn. They had some La Bien-Aimée, and they had some Plucky Knitter, and they had a few other things, and all of them were basically in semi-solid colors, and like lavender, and like acid green, and baby pink, and they just weren't very exciting for the kids. I was hoping to find something speckled, or, you know, something fun. And also, those are on the pricier end of sock yarns, and often I would use, well, I might use those yarns for myself to make socks, but I would often use them like to make shawls or sweaters or other things. And so I thought, you know, I really don't want to do this for the kids. So I went ahead and bought the kids some other sock yarn. But when we got home, my mom said to me, can I ask you something about my socks? And I was like, sure, because I've knit her a couple pairs. And she said, do you think you could knit me another pair of socks? And I said, yeah. And she said, and could I ask you to do them a little differently this time? And I was like, okay. And she said, I'm having trouble getting some of the socks you originally knit me over my heels. They've shrunk a little bit. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. I was like, that's fine. I was like, what is she gonna like tell me how to, because my mom doesn't knit either. So I was like, what is she gonna, I was like, no, that's fine. Just because you need a little more room in the gusset, I'm good. So, so I have a couple pairs of socks to do for the kids. I've got a pair of socks to do for my mom. I've got a pair of socks to do for Knit the Rainbow. So, I think the next few weeks are gonna be sock heavy as well. And I think I'm gonna make socks my next to the computer project because they're easy to pick up and put down. And the kids' socks should go really, really fast. And even my mom's socks should go fast. She has very small feet. She has size 5.5 feet, so it's kind of like knitting another pair of kid socks, other than the fact that I will make her gusset a little bit deeper this time. So yeah, so that's where I am with socks. So I wanted to show you two other things. The first is, remember I just said Knit the Rainbow socks? Well, I am on my purple pair, and so I don't think I showed you, a couple weeks ago I ordered a skein of purple. I thought I had something that would work, and as it turns out, it was part of a larger set and I didn't want to break it up, and so I just decided that I'd go ahead and buy something, and I actually had some credit at Eat Sleep Knit, which is a great yarn shop if you're looking for, I buy a lot of my basics from Eat Sleep Knit. They have wonderful other lovely yarns as well, but I buy a lot of like Dream and Color Classy and some of what I consider sort of my more basic yarns, and so what I did is I went looking for a purple, and this is a Dream and Color Classy, which is 100% superwash merino, 250 yards. It's worsted weight. I would say it's probably a light worsted weight, and it is in the colorway Divine, so that's just a really, really violety purple. So this is the pair of socks that's going to go on the needles this week. I might have them done by next week. I don't think so. Probably one this week, one next week. But this is what might be my 6th and final pair for Knit the Rainbow. After this, I'm going to switch to doing some of the kids' socks and stuff. And if I have more time, I might try and crank out one more pair of socks. But I suspect that it's about time to start boxing things up and sending them because, well, I mean, I still have probably another month and a half. But by September, October, I want to be mailing out packages with hats and socks and all kinds of things to donate to charity knitting. So this will be the next one and possibly the final one for this year, which would give me 6 pairs of socks to send to Knit the Rainbow, which is not bad. I originally started with the idea that I do Roy G. Biv, but then sometimes indigo, blue, and violet are kind of hard colors to come up with. So then I was like, well, I'll just do a 6-color rainbow, and then I talked about maybe putting a pink in there. I don't know. We'll just have to see how my time goes. I'm going to try and crank through some stuff, and if I can, then I will add more in. So this is what I'll be working on this week. It is, it may be coming across a little bit as blue, but it is very, very, very violet, dark purple. So that is what I'm going to work on in terms of socks. And then the one other thing that I wanted to show you, which kind of bridges the gap between spinning and knitting, is I finished applying my Indie Dyer Barbie, which was some fiber dyed by Kim Dyes Yarn, and it was a BFL and silk. And I talked about how I bought two bumps of it, which was turned out to be a little bit more than 8 ounces. Technically they were 4 ounces each, but I think I came out with about 8.3 ounces, and a 2-ply of that yarn in BFL silk, and I have not washed it yet. I meant to wash it this week, but I just ran out of time. But this is the big skein. So it is pink and blue, and it's got a little bit of yellow, and then every so often a little bit of peach and a little bit of green, but it's mostly pink and white with blue and yellow in there, and it just looks amazing. And I think I pretty much hit probably a fingering or light sport weight. I'll have to kind of measure it when it's done. And I probably got about 700 yards, between 700 and 800 yards. And again, I'll just have to wash it before I know exactly what that turns out to be. But I went looking in my stash because I don't know if you remember last week, I talked about the fact that I had kind of woken up in the middle of the night and thought about these skeins of pink that I had in my stash. And this is what I have in my stash. So this is Neighborhood Fiber Company. It turns out it's actually lace weight. It is 80, it's called Capital Luxury Lace, 80% wool, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon, 560 yards to 4 ounces. And the colorway is Mondo, Mondawmin, Mondomin. and I bought it years ago at the Knitting Tree LA, which is one of my favorite LA yarn stores, and I have 2 skeins of it. So I have a couple of ideas. One is that I could pick some kind of a tee or other sweater that uses both a lace weight and a fingering weight for slightly different textures, and do something kind of striped with that. And then my other thought is that I could hold the two strands of lace weight together, and that would get me a fingering or sport weight, which would probably approximate this real nicely. So I really just have to figure out what pattern I'd like to knit. I have some ideas. Most of the patterns that I have been noticing are tee patterns, and I'd probably want to make them longer sleeves since I have so much yardage, just because I don't want to have unused yardage, but we'll see. So this is kind of living in a project bag, ready to be something when it grows up. If I had to guess, based on what I still kind of feel like I need to do in terms of knitting for socks and samples and whatever, I'm guessing this is going to be my Nanny Swaymo project this year. So you may not see it again for a couple months. I know that feels like a really long time away. It's like 2.5 months away. But I also feel like the fall is just going to go like lightning, and it's going to be here before we know it. And then I'm going to need a project. And so I think this is the project that I'm going to do. So that you'll hear more about that shortly. I'm just going to send it back to Norman back there, and he can keep an eye on it until it's time for me to do that. So the final thing that I thought I'd show you this week was spinning. Like I said, that was a good little bridge between spinning and knitting. And I wanted to show you that I've been working on a new braid. This is, let me pull the label because it's still here. This is, unfortunately, the business is no longer dying or is getting ready to close up shop right now. It was from Classy Squid Fiber Company, and it is 4 ounces of Rambouillet, and it was in the colorway Godspeed. And it is a great, it's got red and yellow and a little bit of peachy orange and some chocolate brown. And actually what I decided the other day is I decided that this colorway is a banana split. So bear with me. You have your vanilla ice cream, you have your chocolate fudge, you have your pineapple syrup on top, you have your strawberry syrup on top, and then I don't know, I guess some of this could also be pineapple. So it reminds me of a banana split. So spun up, I have spun up half of it. You do get to see there's a little bit more in the kind of, like between the brown and white, you get a little bit more cream, and you get just a touch of orange here. And then you've got the red, and then you've also got a little bit more pink where it kind of blends with the white. So the white kind of softens the colors a little bit, but you've also got that kind of bright sunny yellow. So that is the first half, and I spun that in tiny strips. So I haven't decided what I'm going to do with the second half, if I'm going to do it as a fractal. I really don't want the colors on this to get too muddy, because it's the brown and the orange and the yellow and the red, and I haven't decided precisely how I'm going to do it. So it'll probably be a fractal, I would think, but I need to kind of figure that out this week as I do the second half. So that is spinning content for the week. So I think I will leave you. I know that this episode is a little bit short, but of course you're going to get 2 today because I was really bad about that last week. So I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. I hope you are able to stay cool. I know Europe has been really hot this summer. I know parts of the US have been crazy hot this summer. I also know there have been some crazy weather patterns and all kinds of things. So I hope that you are safe. I hope you are healthy, and that you've got a little crafting mojo, because really life is fun when you get to craft. So I will say, as I always do, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next week. Bye.